Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Jmore Live. Today, we have an incredibly wonderful guest with us, live from New York City. Rabbi Elliot Cosgrove is a senior rabbi at the Park Avenue Synagogue in New York. Rabbi Cosgrove is one of the leading voices in the conservative movement today. He was ordained at the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York and earned his PhD at the University of Chicago Divinity School. He's a master teacher, an inspirational orator, a wonderful pulpit rabbi, a husband, a father, and an outstanding individual. I'm incredibly proud to call him my rabbi. Rabbi Cosgrove, it's wonderful to have you join us.
Jonathan, thank you, and thank you for that warm introduction. And I think I want to record that so it's there on the good days and on the bad days. So it's great to
Maybe I
see you,
could
my
do,
friend.
oh, wonderful. Maybe I can do a new opening act. I can introduce rabbis around the country on Zoom for interviews. How about that?
Just
That
to
could be a
up our
calling.
spirits. You can be the rabbi to rabbis.
Oh, there we
Um,
go. Well, listen, when we set this up several months ago, I thought we were going to talk about one set of subjects. And then in the matter of days, the world has changed. Here we have this tragic, horrific war in Ukraine, a Jewish president of Ukraine, a Jewish community that was thriving, yet had a lot of challenges. And we know today that Ukrainians of all shapes and sizes and stripes really need our help. And I know I've heard you talk about from the pulpit your work on the board of the Joint Distribution Committee. Certainly, our viewers in Baltimore are very familiar with that. The Federation here in Baltimore has been a huge advocate and very involved in funding and raising money for the Joint Distribution Committee over the years. But what can we as American Jews do right now to both understand the conflict and to help our fellow Jews across the world?
You're right. The world has turns on a dime, and if we thought we saw this coming, we didn't act like it, and it's a moment of crisis. I saw in the news this morning that there are 500,000 refugees, at least, people being displaced, people being killed, lives being upended. It is a horrible, horrible moment, and what we are trying to do at the synagogue, and by extension through efforts like the Joint and otherwise, is to do what we can in the face of a problem and a horror that's far bigger than any of us. So, long before this moment, one of the proudest lines on my CV is that I've served as a board member of JDC. And you can distill the mission of JDC into three R's: relief, renewal, and rescue. And so when there are communities that are being reconstituted, rebuilt, they're there on boots on the ground. When there is a crisis situation, they're providing relief. And there have been moments, and we know them, whether it's Ethiopian Jewry, whether it's other hot spots, Syrian, over the last 100 years, they have been the ones actually getting the rescue mission happening. And so this is a moment like that. And 2 weeks ago, we were really proud to welcome Ariel Zwang, the CEO of JDC, into our community to
That
tell
was
us.
wonderful. I saw that via live stream from here in Baltimore. Yeah.
And she gave the whether it's medicines, food. This was actually before war broke out. The Then JDC's only ramped up its efforts, so we have asked the community to give to JDC, to do what they can, small or large, to be engaged. There are Masorti communities. I'm hoping that one of the Masorti rabbis will be able to address our community this Friday night. It's not confirmed yet, but I'm hoping
Nice.
that we can get a sense of what Jewish life is going on right now. this evening at 6 p.m. If I could plug, I know I'm on your show,
Yes,
but if I could
please.
plug my show,
Absolutely.
Dr. Richard Haas of the Council on Foreign Relations is going to be in dialogue. I'll be wearing the same shirt and sports coat because I will be in dialogue with him, both in person and live in a Q&A, because I think that there, I'm a rabbi, I'm not a political scientist, but just to understand both the immediacy, but also what this could mean in the context of world events. I think to answer your question slightly more rabbinically, for me, a building block, a constitutive element of who I am as a Jew can be distilled down, and I heard these words first from Yair Lapid, the alternate prime minister, that at the core of Jewish identity is a notion that I could be you and you could be me.
I like that.
And if my grandfather had not gotten on the boat going this way, but instead went that way, if I had lived in this moment of time and not that moment of time, if we all sort of have the humility to realize that, but for the vagaries of history, right? Think about that. Golda Meir, Chaim Nachman Bialik, so many people who we consider Jewish heroes come from Ukraine.
Right.
And that could be us, and we could be them. And so that is a glue, that sensibility is a glue that holds us together as a people. And in a moment of crisis like this, it's what drives the imperative not to sit still. And I feel very strongly about this, Jonathan, that this is a moment that we need to be engaged.
Super. So let's go back to how viewers in Baltimore can watch your dialogue this evening with Richard Hassan after. They go to the Park Avenue Synagogue website, and tonight is it 6 o'clock? Is that correct?
6 to
6
7.
o'clock on the homepage. There'll be a box for the live stream. And then will they be able to, they could probably Google that on YouTube later on after the interview?
Correct. Well, I think it does exist somehow on YouTube, but
okay.
the video library of Park Avenue Synagogue, and maybe if you'll have me, I'm happy that if this interview goes there too.
Oh, you're very sweet.
It's called PAS Connect, and that you can just
Wonderful.
go to your app store and you can watch things live. But if you miss an interview, or if the cantor has a song, or if there's some program that you want to have on, just download it just like any other app, or onto your iPad or laptop, and then you can watch things live or have the video library. So that's 6 o'clock.
Wonderful. And Rabbi Cosgrove, that's a wonderful segue to my next kind of topic. Let's talk a little bit about how and why Park Avenue Synagogue is at the forefront of what I would call synagogue innovation. You have this amazing group of rabbinic colleagues, this world-class cantor in Ozzy Schwartz, who's surrounded by several additional chazans, all with beautiful voices, an amazing professional staff that is just incredibly accomplished. I know from joining the synagogue from afar that you stream everything, and we can talk more about that. You've been streaming it for a while, but the online offerings today are just incredibly robust. I was amazed. I think the first Kol Nidre I joined maybe 2 years ago, and granted it was at the height of COVID, 18,000 screens on Zoom. Now, let's just say I can't do higher math in my head, but let's say that's an average of 2.1 people per screen. I mean, did you ever think when you were at the seminary that one day you'd be preaching to possibly 40,000 people? Isn't that insane? I mean, it's crazy, right? In a good way.
Yeah, none of us would have chosen this moment, and it gets to the substance of your question about innovation, but they certainly don't teach you this in rabbinical school. And here, look, there's a long, a short version of this story. First of all, the gift of great colleagues and a great community. So the fact that you have my rabbinic colleagues, Rabbi Zuckerman, Rabbi Witkowski, Cantor Schwartz, Cantor Davis, terrific interns that are world class as well, educators and program directors. The workplace that is people committed to the Jewish people, people committed to excellence in whatever lane they're in. So if you're programming, you make sure it's A plus. If you're the cantor, it's A plus. If you're giving a sermon, we live in a world of choices, a marketplace of ideas, but even before COVID. And so if you're making a Shiva visit, if you are teaching a class, you cannot, the Jewish people, it's just too important, too sacred to phone in mediocrity. And that's the spoken, unspoken social contract of working at Park Avenue Synagogue. A self-demand of excellence of anything that your name is attached to, you know that the Jewish future is riding on it.
Wow.
And that's everywhere from making a hospital visit to Kol Nidre on Yom Kippur. And so, and I'm blessed to be surrounded by colleagues who take themselves and the Jewish people so seriously. Prior to COVID, we had what I would say would be a very passive platform. It was really for the grandparent in Miami who couldn't make the visit, and we sort of had a camera off to the side so they could watch their grandkid, online. We didn't publicize it; it wasn't there, but it was for the homebound, the elderly. And then, so when COVID hit, and now, just 2 years ago, right, March 2020,
right, 2 years ago,
we actually the building was already wired. And so now we obviously invested a huge amount into responding to that moment in time. And when everyone went virtual, the combination of how we were positioned and the sentiment of the lay and professional leadership was, this is a moment that we need to lean into. And I think then it became, look, this has been, I know this isn't therapy, Jonathan, but it's probably been the most difficult 2 years of my rabbinic career and everyone's life right now. Certainly anyone in schools or shuls or, things that involve public assembly, it's tried us and worn us thin. But the opportunity was that the excellence of Park Avenue Synagogue, the musical dynamism, the spiritual and intellectual uplift, we were able to share that broadly and connect to people who, at the very time, their spiritual hunger was, on the uptick, when we were all feeling so separate. So, that's been the story of Park Avenue, and then we added our programming dimension, and we have a class. So every Tuesday, for the last 14 years, after Minyan, I taught a sort of essential essays class. Okay, so that's not the tens of thousands of people on the high holidays, but that used to be, 10 millionaires with bad synagogue coffee, and it was actually lovely. I give me 10 Jews and I'll teach anything. But
I love it.
But now, as you know, last year we did the Hebrew Bible in a year. This year we're doing Jewish history in a year, and it has been. Now we have a email list of hundreds, and on any given morning there are 80 to 100 plus screens of people just studying Jewish history.
And here's the amazing thing. I mean, I as you referenced it, I've taken Rabbi Cosgrove's class for the last year and a half. Love it. You have to do the homework, by the way. You have to come prepared. Not that you're going to be embarrassed if he calls on you, but you have to come prepared. But what I love about it is I have met people on the Zoom all over the United States of America. And even I think we have one somewhere in Europe, Sweden,
Yeah.
Norway. I can't remember where Jane is.
Yeah.
It's really
Austria.
wonderful to study with Jews and non-Jews from around the world. It's fabulous, fabulous. So let's shift a little bit and talk about Israel. I know that's something very near and dear to your heart. So thinking back to kind of this was also during the height of COVID. So in May of 2021, if everyone remembers, as rockets were being fired at Israel by Hamas from Gaza, I remember you made a decision to skip a major pro-Israel rally in New York, and instead you got on a plane and flew to Israel, if I remember that correctly. And I think you were part of a
Yeah,
UJ rabbinic
there's
mission.
a tweak in that,
Is there?
but I'll get into it. Yes.
So tell the audience why would you decide to take that trip? And tell us more importantly, because I think this is an ongoing challenge in the Jewish community today, why Israel should matter to American Jews. So a two-part question.
Yeah. So look, that was whatever that quotation is about a certain percentage of life is just showing up,
Yeah.
right? And when someone suffers a loss, when you never forget who's at your wedding, you never forget who shows up, and at a moment like that, in May of last year, when rockets were falling on civilian populations, there was criticism of Israel because if you remember the complexity of that moment and was it in there were Arab riots in Lod and Akko of
Right.
Israeli Arabs, and
It's
there was a
terrible.
lot of he said she said going on, and it was playing out in Congress and in human rights commissions and otherwise. And I said, you know what? It's not a conditional love that I have for Israel. You just show up. And I was part of a small cadre that turned into a
Mm,
medium-sized cadre of New York rabbis that
there you
we
go.
just said, at this moment, it was more important that we went and that we came back and spoke to our community because when Israel's in pain, the Jewish people are in pain, and we wanted that show of solidarity,
Mm.
and it was really 2 or 3 days of whirlwind
I'll
Orthodox
bet.
Reform conservative rabbis. We went to the borders of Gaza. We went and met with Israeli Arabs. We went to visit people all around representing different stakeholders in Israeli life. And then we came back and I gave a sermon and we spoke in various
Right.
panels because we certainly didn't reflect a monolithic view on Israel. We were a
Right.
diverse bunch,
Right.
but we felt that was also the point of the mission, that it doesn't actually matter if you fall in this or that or the other
Hmm.
bucket of political belief. You show up for Israel. It wasn't the one corrective is
Yeah.
it wasn't
Thank
that
you.
I skipped a rally. It was that given the limited number of hours in a day and figuring out
There
what
we
was the
go.
most, impactful use of my time, it was to put everything in my life on hold and take that what was really a quick trip. Um, and
Very good.
I think that kind of goes to the more sort of philosophically minded aspect of your question, Jonathan, which is
Yeah.
the role of Israel in American Jewish identity.
Yeah.
And I think that first of all, I don't think you can. I think one mistake people make is they sort of sweep it under the rug, and they sort of act like, oh no, everything's fine. Everything's actually not fine,
Mm-mm.
and I think that the ability to be, one of progressive values, someone who is an advocate for a two-state solution, who believes that Israel and the Palestinians have every right to have a place to call home, uh, and that these are values that are in sync and not in conflict with who we are as Jews. Right? This is actually becoming a more and more rarefied space. It's kind of, the toxic extremes have either Israel as a colonialist oppressor,
Right.
or right, or anyone who voices criticism of Israel becomes a self-hating Zionist, right? The
Self-hating
idea
Jew.
that
Yeah.
a self-hating Jew, right? I mean, so I've staked my career on grabbing that megaphone of this, what I call the sane center, right, and being able to you know have conversations with texture, of acknowledging both sides, of recognizing Israel's imperfections, but nobody, if I am critical of of a certain administration, right, that doesn't make me un-American. That criticism is actually an expression of my patriotism.
Correct.
And for some reason we feel that same, it's we've been handed this world where one has to either choose between sort of Israel can do no wrong, or right, or the opposite, where everything Israel does is somehow you know uh, you know horrible. And
We hear that.
I think that the idea that Israel is a miracle, a sovereign state for the Jewish people, is deserving of our support, um, uh, emphatically so, and has imperfections. And sometimes it's the people who love Israel most who are best positioned to give that feedback.
Wonderful insight. Wonderful insight. So as we kind of come toward the end of our conversation, and look, I could talk with you all day. I love talking with rabbis, and we'll chat more about that probably at another time. But let's talk a little bit about what it's like to be Elliot Cosgrove, the senior rabbi at Park Avenue Synagogue. If I recall, your grandfather was a rabbi in Scotland. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Okay, I remember that from
Garnet Hill
class.
Synagogue. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So look, the demands on your time are obviously intense. We have shared some hard moments. My father, who was a retired conservative rabbi, had just a not fun illness and passed away in October. May his memory be for a blessing. And you were just so incredibly kind and available. And I see how you are from the pulpit. I mean, how do you find the time to write your sermons, successfully run this large and complex nonprofit religious organization, and spend time with your family? I mean, how do you do it? Is there a secret?
Is there a secret?
What's your
First of
secret?
all,
How about
thank
that?
you. At least to hear all your kindness, Jonathan.
It's
None of
true.
it's taken lightly, and all the more so from the son of a rabbi
Yeah,
who
thank you.
has seen firsthand sort of the rhythms of rabbinic life. So a kind word from you means more than you know.
Well, thank you.
Um, and and so first of all, it's not perfect, right? I'm not perfect, and right, I can show you my task list, and not everyone who is who's had a loss, had a baby, had a whatever this
Yeah,
week is going to get a call today.
yeah,
And so number one is you surround yourself with a great team,
yeah, yeah.
and which, if there's one thing I'm very proud of, is that people who are excellent, received well by the community, and we all work together hand in hand, to serve the community internally, externally. Um, keep a sense of humor, and you hope other people do as well. I always try to put my family first.
As you should. Good for you.
And right, there's a meeting tomorrow night. My daughter's in from college. I'm going out to dinner with my daughter,
Good.
and hopefully 2,000 years of Jewish history will not come to a crashing halt, um, because of a missed meeting. Um, and I think, um, look, on a good day, I have the best job in the world, and I think this is hopefully everything I'm saying is worth something, but to be a rabbi is, you tell me a job where I can, teach and preach and think deep thoughts as part of my job, where
Right.
I can be tasked to run I don't know if it's a mid-sized, large-sized, not-for-profit, as part of
Right.
my job that does good in this world, and that I can be invited in to be present at the most sacred and raw moments of people's lives. You tell me another job that on any given day you have to exercise those three muscle groups. There isn't one. I have the best job in the world, and I'm sticking to that.
Good for you. Good for you. So I want to leave you with one story. We all talk about Jewish geography. Here I am in Baltimore, Maryland. Debbie and I have joined Park Avenue Synagogue in New York. For our viewers, they're probably wondering why. Baltimore's blessed. We have wonderful shuls here: Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, Reconstructionist. During COVID, I was looking for something a little different, and Rabbi Cosgrove probably doesn't know this, but we have a house on Kent Island, just over the Bay Bridge, across from Annapolis. We're not very close to any shul. So, the online portion of a robust synagogue is very attractive when you're kind of a little isolated. So fast forward, sadly, Dad passes away. And so every, I don't get to see you, but I see your colleagues. I say Kaddish at evening minyan at Park Avenue Synagogue. It's a wonderful 15 minutes, not saying Kaddish, but everyone should do it. You can find time in your schedule to do it. And so, quick story, about a month or two ago, I'm online. Someone messages me, types a little note in the chat and says, "Are you Jonathan Oleisky, Rabbi Arthur Oleisky's son?" And I type back and I said, "Yep, that's me, guilty." And he goes, "Oh, my rabbi, Bruce Aft, a conservative rabbi who used to work for your dad, is holding a class in Northern Virginia on Harold Kushner's book, The Lord is My Shepherd, Healing Wisdom of the 23rd Psalm. He's teaching a 4-part series on the 23rd Psalm. This is what got me. In memory of your dad, Bruce considered your father a mentor. And he said, would you come to our first class tomorrow night?"
And you didn't even know what was going on.
I found from going to Minyan from Baltimore via Zoom at Park Avenue Synagogue in New York. Is that amazing?
That's an incredible story.
It kind of gives me chills. And thus I reconnected with Dad's old friend and my old friend, Rabbi Bruce Aft. I don't know if you know Bruce, wonderful fellow.
Yeah.
And how about that? So I thank you for that gift.
Oh, may your father's memory be for a blessing, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On that note, we're going to let Rabbi Cosgrove probably get to his task list of 48 million things. As he said this evening, he's in dialogue with Richard Haas. You can find it on the Park Avenue Synagogue website. If you watch us, because most people will watch us over the next few days, go to the Park Avenue website and search for that conversation. I've heard Rabbi Cosgrove in dialogue before with Richard Haas. It will be incredible. And Rabbi Cosgrove, once again, thank you so much for some time during your busy day. Our viewers in Baltimore, I'm sure, have enjoyed this wonderful treat.
Thank you, Jonathan. Honored to be part of Jmore. Thank you.
All right. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.